Close your eyes and imagine this. The year is 1457, a freezing night in January. In Wales, within the thick stone walls of Pembroke Castle, a young girl screams. Waves crash against the rocks, the wind howls. A child of 13, but fate had placed her in a mother's role. Margaret Beaufort was giving birth not to her own childhood, but to the future of a kingdom. But wait, how did this tiny girl come to bear such a heavy burden? May 31st, 1443. She was born at Betrothal Castle in Bedfordshire. Even as a baby, Margaret was no ordinary child. She was of royal blood, but fate had written her pain, not a throne. Her father, John Beaufort, Duke of Somerset, died mysteriously when Margaret was 1 year old. Some said suicide, others said poisoning. And from that day on, Margaret was no longer a child, but a pawn. Her lineage, her inheritance, her lands, all turned her into property. And this is where I want to ask you, my dear friends, have you ever known someone who had a huge burden placed on their shoulders at a young age? Maybe you, maybe a relative. Life sometimes forces people to grow up as children. Write in the comments, I'd love to read them. Her mother protected her as best she could. She received an education, learned French, and took refuge in books. Perhaps she too thought that one day she would be able to live her own life. But in those years, girls had no right to decide their own fate. When Margaret was 3 years old, yes, 3, she was betrothed to John de la Pole, the 7-year-old son of the Duke of Suffolk. Special permission was even obtained from the Pope. Just think, a child who couldn't even hold a doll at that age was promising to marry. But politics changed and the betrothal was broken. Margaret was available again. Then in 1455, the king married her to 24-year-old Edmund Tudor. Margaret was only 12 years old. In a world where a child was considered a spouse to an adult, everyone was actually guilty, and soon after she became pregnant. Even then, people knew young girls couldn't bear this burden, but Edmund didn't care, because he knew if Margaret died after giving birth, all the wealth would be his. He was looking at wealth, not a girl child, but fate turned against him. Edmund was captured in battle and died. Margaret was 7 months pregnant, and she was all alone. In the middle of winter, in the midst of civil war, she traveled by carriage to Pembroke Castle. Imagine it, snow-covered roads, enemy territory, a frail body, but she went. And on January 28, 1457, she went into labor. According to the midwives, this birth was not normal. Margaret was very small. Her hips were underdeveloped, her body not yet ready. The labor pains lasted for hours, screams echoing off the stone walls. The struggle between life and death for a 13-year-old girl. 18 hours later, silence. Then a faint cry. The baby was alive. The future King of England, Henry VII, was born. But Margaret lost something in that birth. She would never be able to have children. Her body was ruined. She carried the scars of that pain for the rest of her life. Now think about it. Was there a child in your circle who lost their life too early? A person whose smile faded before they could grow old? That is exactly Margaret's story. But Margaret didn't just suffer, she rose up. Her son Henry was raised by his uncle Jasper Tudor. Margaret tried to reach her son every year through secret letters. Years passed, wars continued. Henry went into exile, Margaret waited. Like any mother, her only hope was to see him again one day. After 1471, everything seemed lost. But Margaret did not give up. She married Thomas Stanley, not for love, but for protection. Stanley was powerful and intelligent. Margaret turned this marriage into a shield. She established secret networks and gathered allies. And she sent a message to her son in exile. The right time will come, just be patient. And that time came, the summer of 1485. Henry Tudor landed in Wales. The battle began at Bosworth Field. Margaret was praying at home. Her son's army was weak, but God was on his side. Stanley did not use his army on Richard III's side. And at that moment, fate changed. Richard died, the crown was pulled from under a bush, and placed on Henry's head. The child Margaret had given birth to at the age of 13 was now king, and she went down in history as England's Queen Mother. But life is strange. Years later, when her granddaughter Margaret Tudor was to be married to the King of Scotland at the age of 13, the elderly Margaret objected. She pleaded tearfully, "She's too young. Wait until she grows up." But no one paid attention or listened to her. History repeated its pain. In 1509, Margaret Beaufort passed away. She was 66 years old. Her tombstone reads only, "The King's Mother," but behind that stone lies the story of a little girl who gave birth to a dynasty amid screams on a cold January night. Dear friends, what do you think Margaret's story was? A tragedy, a victory, or both? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read them. Because sometimes history is not just about kings, but about women who stood tall despite the pain. In the next video, we'll pull another story from the dusty shelves of history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I love you all very much. Take care of yourselves. See you soon.